On this episode of the John1911 podcast, Hudson Manufacturing goes Chapter 7. Did New Zealand really ban guns? The heaviest safe we ever bought. And no, I don't hand load. Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the John1911 podcast, and this is episode 127, and I'm doing this one solo today because I've got a really busy schedule and a lot going on, so we're going to run through some of these real quick. These are some topics and questions, things we've covered or have come up on social media, or questions people have answered, obviously, in the news. So I'm going to sit here, drink some coffee, and knock this one out. So we had a couple people ask us about Hudson Manufacturing when it was announced that they were in trouble and they were having issues getting stuff done. So people were like, well, should we get a Hudson gun now? Or, should I buy one? And, actually, I had even asked yesterday, I was talking to the folks from AIM Surplus, and I asked them, I said, hey, what are the chances you guys are going to get any more of those Hudsons in, maybe at a discount, since you guys were carrying them, you were a stocking dealer? And they said that there was a chance, because they apparently have good reputations with their distributors or however they get their guns, because they are a cash buyer. They don't do things on credit or 90-day terms. That's my assumption. They just said cash buyer. But they doubted they would be getting any more in. So I started sniffing around and looking around at the market, and I am not seeing any of these Hudson guns getting cheap yet. We're interested in a Hudson H9 for various reasons. One, I think it's an interesting gun, and I supported Hudson in a previous life. I'd actually met one of the owners of Hudson Manufacturing, and I was really hoping that they would do well. And we had planned on buying one of the guns. We were not waiting for the aluminum frame, or supposedly they had walked on their own business model by announcing a more desirable gun in the future, so people were holding back. They were a little bit too expensive, a little bit too much above MSRP, and it wasn't a good time. We always have projects going on and building stuff, but the other side of that argument is I'm sitting here, another guy on the internet saying, yeah, I'd buy one of those, and we didn't buy one. So, which is what happens with most guns and people on the internet. Typical, oh yeah, I'd buy one of those. So, a couple people were asking, should I get one? Should they get one? And then really it's answering it for me. We are going to get one, but ideally, I don't want to pay $600 or $700 for a Hudson. I just don't. I don't think you should pay $700 for a Hudson, because if it breaks, you're going to have to pay to get it fixed. And, we over here at the Armory, we have the ability and the wherewithal and, honestly, the financial commitment to keep a gun like that running. I mean, in my personal opinion, I think the number one issue with that gun is probably the extractor. Designing extractors to work, designing extractors to function and to not break, there's a little bit of a trick to it. And so I wouldn't be at all surprised if, the most common reason why these guns are going back in is from extractors. That's what I've heard, and maybe front sights. Well, we just have a machine shop. We come up with a design for an extractor and, make some modifications and, maybe play with it. It would be hundreds of dollars to either, do that. And so the question is, do you buy one now that's sitting in inventory, or do you wait for one to pop up later? And I think personally for us, they're still too expensive. And I call it the Ian McCollum effect. And, God bless Ian and Forgotten Weapons. They're awesome. I watch a lot of their content just like many of you do. And what's happened is, I suspect, is a lot of people have these guns and they're thinking, ooh, now these are going to be desirable because they're going to be collectible, or they're going to be rare, or they're going to be uncommon. And, the truth is, nobody knows. Nobody. I from experience and observation, I've come to believe that most things that are built to be collectible generally don't go up in value. I just, for some reason, I think of like the Time Life books, Elvis plates, or the Franklin Mint, whatever Elvis, buy the John Wayne commemorative gun. I mean, if you bought one of those, God bless you. If you love John Wayne or all that, rock, you do you. But if you buy something like that, think it's going to be collectible, you're probably going to lose on it if you're going to make money on it. The Hudson, I've seen different numbers. I won't be able to figure out what the true production numbers of Hudson is probably for another couple years, because the ATF, they do publish these numbers, but I tend to get them a few years later. And I have heard that Hudson may have manufactured 2,000 of these guns, and for a brand new company, a brand new pistol manufacturer, that's really good. That's surprising. If you're someone who monitors Kimber, I'm back in the old days, I remember Kimber used to do like 75,000 guns a year. And I also remember back in the old days when Wilson and Brown and Bear, and they were Full Tilt Boogie, and, they were the cool kids. They were doing 3,000, 32, 31, 2,900, and I think some of them had gotten up to maybe 4,000, I don't know what their numbers are today. For all I know, there's somebody from Wilson Combat listening to this going, ha, 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 we do 10,000 a year. Great. And the market's saturated too, which is why you see all these companies diversifying out of the 1911. But I digress. 2,000, if there's 2,000 Hudson H9s, how many of those are owned by gun nerds like me, who think there's an intrinsic value or interest in the gun because of the mechanics, the history, or the story, versus how many of those guns are out in circulation because you have the OCD new gun syndrome kids who have to buy the latest and greatest gun because they want to carry it and shoot it until the next SHOT Show, when they have to buy the Glock, model 99 or something. And so those guys, you wonder, are they going to be afraid to shoot these guns because they can't get any support for them, or, they're not cool anymore, or whatever. So they're going to, a guy who has a Hudson H9, he thinks it's, it was going to be his cool gun. Maybe he's got a Gen 1 Hudson. Now he may be afraid to even put it in a Kydex holster and scratching it because, well, gosh, it's going to be all scratched up and used and won't be worth even less if I have to sell it. So I'm still waiting to see if all those guys are going to dump out of these guns. So if you're asking me, should you buy a Hudson H9? Sure, I'm going to buy one. Right now, I'm not paying $600 or $700, $800 for a Hudson. I'm just not. I'm targeting 4. Freeze has even told us, he said, hell, I'll buy a broken one for $300. Maybe I would. So in the meantime, we're considering maybe I'll just scoop up some magazines, 3 or 4 mags, 2 or 3, assuming a gun comes with, I don't know, I don't recall. Maybe Hudson was cool when they sent you 3 mags when you bought a gun, but as a new company with a new magazine design, I know it's a common mag body, the Smith & Wesson 59 series mag body, but it is a custom magazine. They may have had some issues getting mags. I honestly don't know. So, maybe you buy 2 and you sit and wait. Maybe you'll run across a gun with 1 and you have 3, and then, or maybe maybe they come with 3 and so you end up with 5. So I think the minimum, if you want to buy some magazines and you want to wait, buy 2 mags, you'll probably have to step up and buy the mags and, wait and see what happens. So I'm targeting, I wouldn't even look at a Hudson until they hit $500. And, that would be my recommendation. If you're looking to have one long term, I would not spend, if you can wait a year or 6 months or a month or 2 months, I wouldn't spend $700 on a Hudson right now. That's crazy. I would, because people are going to dump them, and we'll just have to see how the market shakes out. Will the Ian McCollums of the world and all his fans scoop them up and keep the prices elevated, or will they become shit guns at shit prices? And I'm very interested in a shit gun and a shit price. So, had a guy reach out talking about, there's a company not that far from the Armory called Challenge Targets. And I don't know the owner of the company real well. I know him professionally, and he knows us. His name's Brad. And so anyway, they sent out an email a couple days ago in their newsletter because they're selling their targets. And it was not a bad idea. They have a video in there of some, commercially appealing female that has in their newsletter that, do you know how to score an IPSC target or IDP or whatever kind of target it was? And I'm looking at that and I'm like, why do I know this woman? Why do I know this woman? Is she local? Why do I know this woman? Then I realized, oh no, it's that Amy Jane girl that got run out of the gun industry for basically stolen valor. I mean, she was, you can look into it. I mean, most of you probably know about it because it was a pretty big story, but I was like, man. So I looked at the newsletter and I was like, oh, well, it doesn't look like they hired her. I think maybe their social media people just went on the internet and found a picture of a video of a pretty girl talking about shooting targets, and they were just like, great, we'll just embed this in our thing. So I reached out to Brad and I was like, hey, FYI, just so you know, there's this girl you're featuring in your content, and this is the story on it. You just may want to look into it a little bit before you move forward on that. They actually responded right away, and they were like, wow, we had no idea. Thanks for the heads up. And it was like, yeah, I understand. I mean, she's very commercial. And, it's kind of the heat's kind of gone off that Amy Jane story. But, if you see her, if you look her up and you Google her, it's kind of sad because it reminds me of the stories like you hear now with like these kids, like the Hollywood kids, or parents are faking their transcripts and faking sports to get them into college, to a college that they don't care about anyway, because they really want to be on the internet and be influencers and sell makeup. But now they've ruined their lives. And, I think of Amy Jane because, look, she flunked out of Paris Island or wherever she was at. And, there's no shame in that. I mean, you tried, you didn't make it. That's a story, my understanding. Just go with it. She's a very commercially appealing girl. She's in the guns, and she could have just been real and been super successful. And, just do you and be you, just shoot guns and have fun, and you'd have been okay. But no, you had to jump the shark and do crazy shit. And so that kind of reminded me a little bit of the college tuition scandal, or the college transcript admission scandal, I guess they call it, or whatever. So yeah, I did see the Amy Jane challenge targets thing, and they didn't even seem aware of it. This came up, obviously this isn't all the news, the shooting in New Zealand and the banning all the guns. Let me drink a coffee here a little bit. Trying to ban all the guns. And it is kind of scary, if you don't think the Second Amendment is important, and you don't think the Second Amendment is pertinent, and why the Founding Fathers put the Second Amendment in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. First is obviously, the First Amendment, freedom of speech and all that. Second one, right to keep and bear arms as private citizens, to protect yourself from the government or nefarious outsiders. New Zealand, supposedly the story is that they're going to ban all these guns, semi-automatics. They did it in like 4 days. And so I actually have a relationship. I mean, it's tangential. I haven't talked to him in a while. It's Hardy Engineering, and Dan Hardy. He's in New Zealand, and I know of Hardy Engineering because of the Blazer community. And I had talked to them about when I couldn't find a 223 5.56 caliber barrel for my Tactical 2 a couple years ago. My plan was I was going to find a 338 Lapua mag for a Tactical 2 either in New Zealand or either in Australia or New Zealand, and then have it shipped to Dan. And Dan does all this custom. I think that he makes suppressors. He does custom barrel work, makes custom barrels. He does rifle builds, and he's a pretty high-end machine shop. And I was going to have them chop a 338 barrel length back, hog out the inside of it, sleeve it for a 223, and then, you know, ship it to the US, which, I mean, this was going to be like $5,000 or $6,000 to have this done. It was going to be stupid money. So, but, you know, when you're waving stupid money in front of a guy in New Zealand, he's going to take your call. Well, it ultimately ended up not doing it because with some readers, we found a 223 barrel here. But Dan has kind of set me straight a little bit on how the gun laws in New Zealand work. And so the media is reporting that they're banning all these guns in New Zealand. And the way it's explained to me is, especially for the American gun culture, the guns in New Zealand, the gun laws don't work the way they do here. So basically in the United States, we have I'm overstating this, but for the average listener, this is how it works. You've got guns, which are available to everybody that isn't a douchebag criminal. And then on the other side of that, you have NFA items, which is the machine gun stuff. Machine gun suppressors, you know, bombs, mortars, everything, all that stuff ends up on the NFA side. And then everything else is basically 4473, obviously, if you're, you know, understand all that. So in New Zealand, the rough way that I understand it is they have at least 3 categories of gun ownership. To have a gun in New Zealand, you have to have a license. And I'm gonna call the first one a Class A license. I'm gonna call the second one, might be a Class B or Class C. I'm not sure what that is. And then there's another one called a Class E. So my understanding is the most basic guns that you can own or buy in New Zealand are you as an individual own a Class A license, and that enables you go through some kind of minimal background or whatever it is, it's the basic license. And that enables you to buy Class A guns. And one of the things they've done is they have they would take an AR-15 or any of those modern sporting rifles, and they were able to classify. You could take one of these modern sporting rifles, put a 5-round magazine in it, and that would qualify as a Class A gun. So then the middle one that I understand, if you're in New Zealand, give me a little bit of a break here. If you want to roll in and give me the actual details for the listeners, that would be awesome. So the middle one is, my understanding, it would be kind of like what you and I would consider normal, you know, standard capacity magazines, regular, you know, AR-15s, AK, semi-automatic guns, non-NFA in the US, but, you know, all these types of guns with magazines and features and all that kind of stuff. And then above that is a Class E license. And my understanding is a Class E license it's machine guns and, you know, some other features that probably are peculiar to New Zealand that I don't understand. So while the media in the United States, because most people listening to this are consuming media in the US that is trying to tell you what they think is going on in New Zealand, and, you know, the media never gets shit wrong or lies. The gun owners in New Zealand are not convinced or not sure that, quote, these guns are banned. They're banning all these semi-automatic guns, or that they're banning guns that hold more than 5 rounds. The law is, they wrote this thing in 4 days. It's a couple pieces of paper. They don't have any mechanism to enforce it. They don't have any mechanism to do all this kind of stuff or to do that. But what the guys at Hardy Engineering and all his buddies down there are saying is they're going to wait, because what they think may end up being the truth is all of these Class C licenses, B or C licenses that are like in the middle, which is most real gun enthusiasts. That's how they say it. I'm not saying it. They're saying all the real gun guys in New Zealand that have what you and I here in America consider normal AR-15s, they're thinking that all those licenses, if those people want to keep those guns, need to upgrade to an E license, because they can't. The thinking is they can't just get rid of the E license, because the E license covers like manufacturers and all these people that support all this. So what they're thinking is it's possible that realistically they're just going to take all of these average guns and put them onto more like an NFA, what they would call an E license. And so they're trying not to freak out. They're trying not to act like, the sky is falling. They're not happy. The gun owners down there are not happy. And I don't know the politics of New Zealand. I do know, I did look into it, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, that woman you see on television, she's basically a communist, is to my eyes. If she's not a communist, man, she's very left. So surprise, maybe this appeals to her. So, and I don't know if courts have to weigh in or how their system works as far as, there's checks and balances. I mean, we have checks and balances in the U.S. for a reason. Our forefathers were very smart. But there seems to be a lot of question, even among New Zealand gun owners, as to what's the truth here and how this is really going to shake out. So basically, if all these guys have to just upgrade their licenses, that really are into the shooting sports, as they call it down there, they're like, yeah, that shouldn't be that big of a deal. So that's an alternative view on the possibility of New Zealand. I'm not staking out a position on it. I am just telling you what they're telling me. So maybe, we'll have to see how that goes. So let's see here. I guess Dick's has, somebody had asked, Dick's is removing guns. Dick's had gotten rid of AR-15s some years ago, and it's like, I guess now Dick's has announced that they're getting rid of 125 stores are going to stop selling guns altogether. There's something that they're going to do, and it's like, do I think Dick's has, do I think gun owners have hurt Dick's? I don't know. Dick's kind of sucks. Dick's always wasn't, Dick's was never really that good of a gun store. People would go in the Dick's, at least in my universe, before they started boycotting Dick's. If they needed some hunting ammunition on the fly in a hurry and it was close and you just needed a box so you can, fill a tag, and you're going to pay full boat retail and, never go in there again. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't care about Dick's. Dick's is never going to admit they're wrong. I don't think we've hurt Dick's. I don't think Dick's cares about us, and I don't really care about the story all that much. Just drinking some coffee. Give me a break. Let's see, what else was there? Oh, yeah. Had a guy reach out. He was at a PetSmart, and I got to guess probably there with his wife, and he was maybe in some area sitting, and he got on the internet, he got on their Wi-Fi, and I think he wanted to go to our website, John1911.com, and the website wouldn't, PetSmart blocked us. And I think he was confused, and then he tried to, he was like, why the hell is PetSmart blocking John1911? And then maybe he went to a couple other places, and it realized there was a firewall at PetSmart that was saying, we don't allow guns or whatever. And so, kind of reached out and wanted to let us know this. And I'm fully aware of it. And I've told this story in the past, and I'll tell it again. Look, do I think PetSmart do I think PetSmart gives two shits about guns? I have no idea. I don't know anybody at PetSmart, but I can tell you how a lot of these businesses work. They set up, they have some kind of IT implementation or IT solution. And so, if you have free Wi-Fi in your business, you'll end up setting up some kind of pre-configured package of, you don't want people going and, I don't even want to suggest what somebody could do on a public Wi-Fi, because I just don't even want to verbalize it. But what they'll do is these companies, they'll get a pre-packaged list, a white list and a black list of sites or topics or things that that they don't allow. And so John1911 is on a gun blacklist for these corporate websites. And it's not personal. Somebody put the list together, they create the list, they monitor it, they're always adding to it, and other companies buy the list and they don't even know what's in it. They just, that's kind of how it happens. So PetSmart did not target us. But let me tell you a funny story about this. This actually happened to me. This was about 2 years ago, and I'm outside of Washington, D.C., and I really can't say where. And I think I've told this story before because I was actually doing a podcast from there. So I'm in this place that I can't name, and using their Wi-Fi. And I need to go to John1911 because I need to do some work on the back end. Bam, it doesn't let me in. And I'm like, okay. So I tried to do something else. And when I ended up going to, where was it? I was like, oh, is the internet down? So AP Wire service. AP Wire was up. CNN. CNN was up. Oh, I guess maybe my website's down. So try to go to our website again. Bam, nothing. And then I was like, oh, my Fox News, bam, nothing. It blocks Fox News. And I was like, I realized it's blocking the websites, they're not down. And the way it's being presented in this internal system, it's not saying this content has been blocked because of guns or whatever. It's just not rendering. And so it's really weird. So I'm like, okay, what are we dealing with here? So I went to something like at Congress. No problem. All right. And I went, let me try this. Pentagon, the Pentagon.gov. Bam, stopped it. I was like, all right. So, because I can't really say where this was, I get on the phone and I call the IT people over there, and I'm basically like, you dumb motherfuckers, this is retarded, and so they cleaned it up. And so they had this place had bought in some implementation a white list and a black list. And so they had to go in Washington and be like, yeah, I guess we can unblock the Pentagon because they're guns. And yeah, we'll go ahead and unblock John1911 too while we're at it. It's like, yeah, thank you, since I'm paying the damn bills here. So, just, it's one of those things. Don't go through life looking to be ass hurt, to be a victim, or, to be oppressed. Don't become the grievance culture that that represents everything you probably don't stand for, because it's easy to do. And so PetSmart, I'm sure they're fine, I guess. I don't know. I don't no one really cares. So somebody had asked about, there's a story, I hadn't heard the story. And so what had happened, there's a story that some burglar had broken into somebody's house and was trying to get a safe out of this house, and the safe fell on them, and the safe weighed 900 pounds, and they died. I guess they got trapped under it and probably suffocated. So the story was, I guess a man had come home. He'd been gone. I don't know if he was gone for an extended period of time. Comes home, and I don't know but he initially thought something was wrong in his garage. But he was home and going in his garage and didn't even realize that there was a body under a safe in his garage right away. I don't know if because the door was open, or maybe there was a smell, but it took him a little bit to figure it out that there was this, somebody under this 900-pound safe. And so yeah, that would not happen. We don't have those kinds. The Armory, we don't have those kinds of safes, so I really can't go into it too much. We have a hardened facility. We do have a few of those inside the hardened facility, but they're really more just administrative. So, but I thought that was kind of a neat and sad story in itself. And you hate to hear stuff like that, but let me tell you what. There was a safe. What the hell was it? We had bought a safe from a business. It was an older safe, and it was configured to go into, and we were going to bring it inside our secured facility. And what the hell was it? We didn't realize at the time that this safe was so old. I think it was loaded with cement. So a truck, we have a guy we call, and the truck backs up, and he's pulling up our parking lot, and he's got a big tractor trailer truck. It's like a tractor trailer front end, and then with like a larger box on the back, and he's backing it up, and I notice his trailer is sagging on one side, and I'm like, damn, he's really heavy today. So, we're there to receive this safe, and he opens his door, and on one side of the truck are all these like Browning, all the new safe, like all the ones you hear about that are at your gun stores and all that. There must have been 4 or 5 of them on the right side looking on this box, in the back of this box truck. All the typical, the guy's making his run, he's going to make a delivery once a week and then install these safes. And on the left side by itself was the one safe that we had bought. And, he's like, man, and so we're looking at getting it in and doing stuff, and he informs us, he goes, this safe, we didn't realize it, and we actually got it for nothing. That's part of the reason why we bought it. It was super cheap. And he goes, you don't realize how heavy the safe is. He says at the bottom of it's got a belly safe in it. It's got a safe and a safe, and he said back in like when they did this, they filled them with cement. He's like, that thing is full of cement. And he's like, it's super heavy. And I'm like, and he goes, if we lose control of it, it says it'll rip off arms and limbs and crush legs and go through walls and floors. And he's like, this safe, he was nervous, and he's got the robots and all that to move all this stuff. And I'm like, well, how heavy is this safe? And he looked at a vehicle that was in our parking lot, and I'm not going to say what kind of vehicle it was. He says it's heavier than that vehicle. And I was like, holy shit. So to me, a 900-pound safe is pretty light. We ended up not taking delivery of it. We worked out a deal with the guy. We were like, so if we don't take delivery of this today, what can you do with it? He's like, well, I have a warehouse and it's flat, so I'll just roll it in and drop it, and I can sell it or do something with it. But we can't. It's going to have to be a specific place, because most places this safe, we decided not to take it because it was just so heavy and we really couldn't do a lot with it. But even a modern, you couldn't put the safe in your house, because it would probably go through the floor, and if it didn't go through the floor, it would sag the floor. And so that's also true most of these modern office buildings or office suites or office condos. A lot of these modern, newer construction type business parks, their flooring, unless they're on a slab like at a warehouse, they couldn't even take these things. So, but I guess it's a lesson learned. Even a itty bitty 900-pound safe can still get you if you don't know what you're doing. So, yeah, that wasn't a good story. So, let's see what else is there going on today. So, today we're heading out to the range. We have 10 targets, steel targets set up on the range. We've been seeding. If you've checked the media on John1911.com, by the time you hear this, I'll probably have the photographs posted. But we've seeded over 800 yards of range, additionally to what our contractors had done last year. Some more coffee there. So then we had to seed also around a Connex. We had to seed around a pit, and so we've been buying 50-pound bags of Kentucky fescue is what the farmers call it, and I guess the stores call it Kentucky 31. And I had no idea that a 50-pound bag of grass seed was like $74. And so, if you out there can get Kentucky 31 or Kentucky fescue for considerably less than $74, please send me an email to let me know, because we have spent, I bet it's a lot. We're not to $1,000 in grass seed. We might be today, because I got to go pick up probably 3 more bags of it. So we're going to do some seeding on the trails that we've cut. We have about 2,000 yards of trails, and then we're going to shoot on the targets we have set up. We have steel targets set up, but on the 500 and 600 yard range. So I'll count these to 500 from the 500 yard shooting position, not the 6. So you can add 100 yards to each one of these targets. So we have, with the exception of actually one target from challenge targets from Brad's company, which is a large like human silhouette. That target is at like 70 some yards. We need to move it, but from there we have what is it? What are they? They're IPSC. Are they 80% targets? I can't remember how big they are, but they're large-ish torso targets. But we have steel set up on the rifle range at 100, 150. We have a random like 178. We have a 200. Then we have a random like 210. And then we have a 300, a 325, a 350, a 450, and a 500. And so all those shooting positions, you could increase that with the exception of like the first one. You can add 100 yards to those, and so that's the 600 yard range. So you will notice if you counted your fingers like I had to do, we have a hole in that target array. We really don't have a viable 400 yard target because we have to figure out just the rise and fall of the land and do all that. So today we set up the targets, and actually today I'm going to go out there and probably ring some of them and shoot them and make sure the stuff is safe and the angles are good. I mean, obviously I'll hit them all. It's not the problem. What we need to do is I need to go out there and figure out, if somebody takes a shot at one of these targets and they're way ass off, how off are they realistically going to be? And what's a worst case scenario? So then we have to make decisions whether we're going to build stuff up, drop stuff down, maybe even push through. And there's a lot more configuration to making sure rounds don't leave the range. And then also while we're out there, let me go ahead and grab these here. So hopefully that's not too loud. A couple years ago, I had bought, I don't even know how much it is, like 500, maybe it's 500 bullets at Camp Perry. I think it was Camp Perry. 155 grain, 308. I think it's Sierra Match King bullets. And I've been wanting to play with the 155s for a while. And so, especially since, this range is 600 yards and in, 500, 600 yards, 155s, why not? And actually, I know there's some guys out there that are, they're doing some stuff with 155s and spinning them fast, and they're shooting real long range of 155s. So anyway, I have no experience with 155 grain bullets. So a buddy of ours who does hand loading for me, I don't hand load, Freeze hand loads, but I do not. He loaded up 10 of these. They're in, let's see, what are these? What kind of brass are these? This is Federal Gold Medal Match, Federal Brass, 155 grain Sierra Match bullet. He's got 44 grains of BLC2 and then a CCI 34 primer. And so he's telling me that these are the 10 bullets are from the pick of the 500 we had bought, and then he's telling me that these are a mid-power. These are a mid-power 308 loading. They're not full horsepower. They're not downloaded. They're not PUD loads, but they're not thumpers either. So I'm going to try to get these out. I just have to make a decision. I'm going to shoot these at 100, get them on paper, hopefully today. And, I don't know if typically I shoot 5-shot groups. I don't know if I'm tempted to do 3 shots just because I only have 10 rounds, but 6 and 1/2 dozen of the other. Somebody was asking, I posted some of this stuff on the internet yesterday or the day before. I don't know if this is something that we're really going to share publicly, because the truth be told, and just being honest, I'm not a hand loader. And so, and Freeze is not a match hand loader. Freeze does all his hand loadings with like cowboy guns and hunting guns and kind of old milsurp guns. And so, I'm not really, we can maybe document a little bit about some of the hand loading that we're doing and some of the stuff, but we're not really, I'm not, I can't help you a whole lot, because basically we'll shoot the groups, we'll take the results, we'll show them to the PhD guy that loads our ammo, literally PhD, and then we'll make adjustments and shoot them again. And that's how we work up, that's how I personally work up all my hand loads. So I think Officer Mike, does some hand loads, and we featured some of his stuff on the on the blog before, so on the website. And I know Officer Mike listens to this podcast, and I've tried to get Officer Mike to maybe even come on the podcast, but so far he is telling me no, and there's obviously reasons why for that, because he's active SWAT officer, and there could be issues there. But maybe if Officer Mike does any type of loading or loading information for some of his guns, maybe we could get him to share some of that, with you as well. So, well, I'm going about 40 minutes, so we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. So if you have any questions, or you want to see any links to the stories or pictures of the things we've talked about here today, just go to our website, john1911.com. It's JOHN1911.com. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun, everybody.